Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to another video. And today's video is going to be a story time about something that is very close to my heart, and that is going to be about the death of my dad. In case you didn't know, he died when I was 13. I'm now 20, so quite a while ago. So in about 3 years' time, it's going to be 10 years, which is gone so quickly. It still feels like yesterday that it all happened. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So I've got a picture here, which was actually the last ever photo of my dad that was ever taken. And this is just him. And it was actually taken about 2 days before he sadly passed away. He was an alcoholic, and at the point that he died, he was recovering from his alcohol problem. He did try to stop drinking on numerous occasions, but could never succeed. But he did often try. It got to the point where at one point he had to move to Kings Lynn, which is well over 20 miles away from Norwich, which is where me and my family live. So he felt like he was very far away from us. He went there, tried. Before he moved back, he ended up in hospital because he was found underneath a park bench, unconscious. So obviously a passerby rang up the ambulance and got him some help. He was in, I think he was in an induced coma for, I don't know how long, I can't remember, but I know he was in a coma for a little bit, tubes out of him. I never actually went to see him when he was in hospital because he did look in a bad way. He was yellow, so I was told. So I didn't go to see him because as an 11, 12-year-old, that wasn't really the best thing to go and do. So I didn't go to see him because that was just the best option for me, really. So he got out of hospital about a month, give or take, after. Oh no, it wouldn't have, I don't think it would have been over a month, but about a month later, he did in fact move back to Norwich because he just felt like he was far too far away from us. So he came back to Norwich and he got beaten up by some people he knew. I can't remember how he knew him, but he knew him somehow. They beat him up. He ended up in hospital. He had a broken leg, and like not so long after that, it was like the Lord Mayor's and like the fair was in Norwich. So he then took me to the fairground and to see the Lord Mayor's. We went to Lord Mayor's first and then we went to the fairground. He paid for me to go on 1 or 2 rides, I can't remember, which were like £3 each because that's how expensive they are. But he paid for me to go on a few rides. Went on a few rides and then we left. We met my mum in a car park at our dog's vet. So we got in the car and went home. My mum and my dad were separated, so obviously he didn't come back to us to stay. He did go back to Bishop Bridge and for any of you who don't know, Bishop Bridge is a place for recovering alcoholics and drug users to go to try and stop. So he was staying in there, and that's only like down the road pretty much from me, so he could easily get back. Sometimes Mum would drop him off, sometimes we'd pick him up, and when he was able, sometimes he'd make his own way up, whether it was busing up the hill or up the hill to ours, or walking up. So he'd always do that. And yeah, so we then fast forward a few years, and he was told that if he didn't change his lifestyle, then he would have a year left. So he then, obviously, because he couldn't change his life no matter how many times he tried, he just kept failing to change his life. So he was told that if he didn't change his life, then he would unfortunately die by his next birthday, which was his 50th. He was told that if he didn't change, then he would die by his 50th birthday, and he died the 26th of July, and his birthday was the 5th of August, so he died just before his birthday, so he almost made it, but he didn't. A few months before he died, he did go to back into Bishop Bridge after being homeless, but obviously by that point it was already too late for any good to happen, basically. So he was found dead there on the 26th of July. So we got I'll always remember the 26th of July 2011 so well. I can imagine it very clearly, I can see it. The only thing I can't remember is what the policewoman looks like, because we had a policewoman knock on our door that morning, asked to speak to my mum. One of my brothers answered, and the policewoman was like, can I speak to your mum please? So obviously my mum went to the door, and she obviously asked to come in. She come into the hallway, and she was like, would you like to take a seat? And as soon as she said that, my mum just knew, because obviously she knew that my dad's alcohol problem just wasn't doing any good to him, and she knew that if he didn't change his life, then he would be dead. So as soon as she said that, my mum just knew, and I'll always remember, because I was stood in the kitchen and my brother stood on the stairs, and I'll always remember her uttering the words that he was found dead. I always remember it so clearly, and it does honestly hurt still that he's not here. It really does hurt. It's horrible. It hurts, if that makes sense. It genuinely hurts. It hurts your heart. And anyone that's lost a parent or grandparent or any relative or close friend, they'll know how much it hurts to lose someone that you're so close to and you love. It's horrible. And honestly, I wouldn't put it on my worst enemy for anything like that to happen, because even to this day, it gets me. And I know some people who hasn't been through it probably be like, why? You should be over it by now. But if I'm honest, losing someone you love so much and you're so close to, it never stops hurting. It doesn't matter how many years has gone by, it always hurts. And obviously when she said that, obviously when the policewoman said the words that my dad had died, I come through, because obviously my mum still loved him even if they were separated. She still cared about him. So obviously at that point I was shell shocked. I didn't believe it. So obviously I wasn't really taking it in. So I walked through and comforted my mum, because that was the only thing I knew what to do. I knew to comfort my mum. So that's what I'd done, and obviously that's what you should do. You should comfort people when something like that happens. And I'll always remember that the day after he died, I came walking down the stairs and I walked into the kitchen and I saw a figure of a person, and it looked just like it was my dad. It was my dad that I saw the next day with a kettle in his hand making a cup of tea, because my dad was always making himself a cup of tea. As soon as he finished one, he was making himself another. So I'll always remember that the day after he died, I did see him, like in a ghost form. I know a lot of you may think, well, that's just crazy, that can't have happened, but I did. I know I saw him. And yeah, so obviously the 5th of August we had his funeral. He did always say he wanted to get us all together, all the family together for his 50th, and that's exactly what he done. So we all got together for his funeral, and we all had like an after thingy for him, in a pub, of course, because where else would it be? So we had that at a pub, and then you can fast forward 3 years, and I got referred to a bereavement charity called Nelson's Journey, because I weren't dealing with the grief even 3 years after. I'd never cried. I wouldn't talk about him. I wouldn't talk about how I felt over it. I just wouldn't say anything about it. I would avoid the subject as best as I could. So that's what happened. So yeah, and on the 21st of July 2014, I remember that very well because I knew it was the same month, within 5 days of his anniversary. I went to an activity day, and before you get to go to an activity day, you have a bereavement officer come round to your house, to talk to you, to get like a background and everything, and just get to know you basically. And I had someone called Ryan come round, very lovely, talked to me, and I opened up within minutes of him being there with me, within minutes of him talking to me. I just opened up and told him how I felt. So that was how it all happened. Went to an activity day, and I done all the activities like we needed to, within a group of 5 of us, because they put us all in groups with people who had similar like situations as yourself. So that happened, and at the end there was always a candle ceremony. So I went to the candle, like obviously we all went to a candle ceremony, and I'll always remember the song Puff Daddy, I'll Be Missing You was on, and as soon as I heard the words, I had tears in my eyes, because that day is for anyone, no matter your age, because it is for anyone, any young people and children aged between 0 to 17 years. So it's like a emotional roller coaster for anyone. And by the end of it, by the end of the day, the candle ceremony, I cried for the very first time, because before I had the help that I had, I would not cry. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what emotions were normal to feel, but obviously since then I now know what emotions are normal to feel after death. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, that's the story basically of losing my dad. Obviously to this day I wish he was still here, but he wouldn't. If he changed his life, he could have still been here, but there was reasons behind why he done what he done and why he was the way he was that I won't go into them details, because it's just not right to be going into them, because they're personal details that happened to him. So I won't be saying why he ended up turning to drink, but there was a very good reason for him to turning to drink. So yeah, that's all for this story time. I know it's a little bit long, but I couldn't help that. I tried to go as in depth as I possibly could, but being as young as I was when I lost my dad, it can be hard to remember all the details from being as young as I was. So if I've left out any details, then obviously I can't be helped. So that's all for this video. I hope that it helps somebody out there, and if there's anyone out there that's going through what I've been through or something similar, then I know what it feels like. As hard as it is, just go through it as best as you can, and it will get better. There will be sunshine at the end of that tunnel. So yeah, that's all I've got for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video, whatever that may be. Bye!